I worked as an IT support technician for a mid-sized insurance company in Savannah, Georgia. My wife worked at Kohl's in the home goods department. We've been married for 15 years and had two kids, a daughter who was a junior in high school and a son who was a sophomore. I was 48 and she was 46 when I started noticing things. The first thing was her phone. She kept it on silent all the time. I would see her texting or scrolling through something, but the phone never made a sound. No dings, no rings, nothing. She was glued to that thing. At dinner, in the car, watching TV, always checking it. I asked her about it once, and she said she didn't like being interrupted by notifications. That made no sense because she never cared about that before. For 12 years, she would keep her ringer on and answered calls normally. Now suddenly, she needed complete silence from her phone while being on it constantly. Then she started working late. 3 nights a week, she would come home at 7 or 8 instead of her usual 5:30. She said there were inventory counts that needed her to stay. She worked there for 12 years and never mentioned staying late for inventory before. I didn't press her about it, but it bothered me. She also started dressing differently. New clothes appeared in the closet, nicer blouses, heels she has never worn, better makeup in the mornings. She folded clothes and restocked shelves. Nobody was judging her appearance except maybe herself. She also started being a little more guarded with her phone, a lot. All of these things together didn't sit right with me. I thought about asking her directly, but I knew she would just deny it. So I decided to check our phone bill online one night after she fell asleep. Hundreds of texts to this one particular number. Calls to that same number started showing up around the same time as the late nights. Some lasted 45 minutes to an hour. Several happened during her lunch breaks. I wrote the number down but didn't do anything with it yet. I wanted to be sure before I made any moves. I kept watching for another couple of weeks and the pattern continued. Every single day there were texts and calls to that number. I ran the number through a reverse lookup service. It came back to a guy who I met once because I remember his name and I think he worked with my wife. That's when I decided to hire a private investigator. I found one through an online search and met with him at his office on a Wednesday afternoon. I explained the situation and showed him the phone records. He said he would follow her for a week and document everything. He said when it comes to infidelity, he can find what he needs in about a week. I paid him half up front and waited. It was one of the hardest weeks of my life, going to work every day and coming home and acting normal, sitting at dinner with her and the kids pretending everything was fine, watching her check her phone constantly and smile at messages, not knowing who she was talking to. The investigator called me after 9 days. He said I should come to his office to review what he found. I went after work one day. He had a folder full of photos and a USB drive with video. The photos showed my wife and the guy from Kohl's together, leaving work together and getting into his truck, driving to a restaurant and sitting close together in a booth, going to a hotel outside the city one afternoon, entering the hotel together at 2:15 in the afternoon, leaving together 3 hours later. Multiple photos from different days showing the same pattern, meeting for lunch at restaurants, sitting in his truck in parking lots talking. One photo showed them kissing in his truck. The video footage showed similar things from different angles, timestamps on everything proving dates and times. The investigator had followed them on 6 different occasions over those 9 days. He documented 4 hotel visits, 3 lunch dates, and multiple instances of them in his truck together. I paid him the rest of what I owed and took all the evidence home. I made copies of everything and stored the originals in a safe deposit box at the bank. I made additional digital copies and stored them in cloud storage. Then I sat on it for a few days trying to figure out what to do. Part of me wanted to confront her right then and there, but another part of me knew that wouldn't accomplish anything. She would just make excuses or try to minimize it. I decided to talk to a divorce attorney first. I met with one on a Friday afternoon and showed her everything. She looked through all the evidence and said it was more than enough. She said with this kind of documentation, the divorce would be straightforward. She advised me to file for divorce and let the evidence speak for itself in court. I agreed and signed the papers that day. The attorney said my wife would be served within a few days. I went home that evening and tried to act normal. My wife was in the kitchen making dinner. The kids were upstairs doing homework. Everything looked normal on the surface, but I knew it was all about to fall apart. She got served with divorce papers on a Monday morning at work. She came home that evening looking confused and angry. She threw the papers at me and asked what this was about. I told her I wanted a divorce. She asked why, and I said I didn't think our marriage was working anymore. She asked if I was serious, and I said yes. She started crying and asking what did she do wrong. I didn't mention the affair. I just said I wasn't happy and wanted out. She asked if there was someone else, and I said no. She asked if this was about her working late, and I shrugged. She got angry then and said I was being ridiculous, said I was throwing away 15 years over nothing. I stayed calm and told her the papers were filed, and that was that. She spent the next few days crying and trying to get me to explain. I kept my answers vague and didn't give her any real information. Just said I wanted a divorce and left it at that. She started telling people I was having some kind of breakdown. Her best friend called me and asked what was going on. I told her it was between me and my wife, and I didn't want to discuss it. My wife kept pushing for answers over the next couple weeks. She would ask me every day why I was doing this. I would just say we were not compatible anymore. She said that was a cop-out and demanded a real reason. I finally said I suspected she was having an affair. Her face went red and she started yelling. She said I was paranoid and delusional, said I had no proof because there was nothing to prove. She called me crazy and said I was making up stories. I stayed calm and said I believed what I believed. She got more and more angry, started screaming that I was ruining our family over my insane suspicions. I told her to calm down. She threw a glass across the kitchen and it shattered against the wall. The kids came running downstairs asking what was happening. I told them to go back upstairs. My wife kept yelling that I was accusing her of something she didn't do. She said if I had proof, I should show it to her right now. I said I didn't need to prove anything to her. She grabbed her phone and walked out of the room. About 20 minutes later, I heard sirens outside. 2 police cars pulled up in front of our house. 4 officers got out and came to the door. I opened it before they could knock. One asked if I was the homeowner, and I said yes. He said they got a call about a domestic disturbance. I said my wife and I were arguing about divorce, but there was no violence. He asked if anyone was injured. I said no. He asked if I touched my wife or threatened her. I said absolutely not. He asked to speak with my wife. I called her, and she came downstairs, red eyes from crying, but no visible injuries. The officer asked if she was okay, and she said no. She said I grabbed her and pushed her during the argument. I started to get nervous. The officer looked at me and asked if that was true. I said no, it was not. My wife pointed to her arm and said I'd grabbed her there. I looked at her arm and saw no marks at all. The officer examined her arm and seemed confused. He asked where exactly I'd supposedly grabbed her. She pointed to a spot on her upper arm that looked completely normal. The other officers had gone through the house to check on the kids. Our son came downstairs asking what was happening. The officer explained they were investigating a domestic violence call. My son looked at his mother and asked what she was talking about. He said he heard them arguing but didn't hear anything physical. My son said I had been standing in the kitchen the whole time. My wife's expression changed when our son spoke up. The officer asked her again if I grabbed or pushed her. She backtracked and said maybe she misremembered in the heat of the moment, said she was emotional and upset about the divorce. The officer told her that filing a false police report was a crime. She started crying and apologizing, said she was just so upset and not thinking clearly. The officer looked at me and asked if I wanted to press charges. I thought about it, but said no. I just wanted her out of the house for the night. The officer suggested we both cool down and have some space. My wife agreed to stay with her best friend. The officers left after making sure everyone was safe. My wife packed a bag and left without looking at me. Our son asked what was going on with Mom. I told him we were having problems and getting divorced. He asked if she really tried to say I hurt her. I said yes, but she was going through a hard time. He said it was messed up. I couldn't argue with that. The divorce process took about 10 months. My wife fought it the entire way. She kept insisting I had no grounds for divorce and was being unreasonable. Her attorney kept pushing for reconciliation. My attorney kept saying we were moving forward regardless. My wife denied having an affair. She said I was paranoid and making false accusations. She tried to paint me as unstable and controlling in the court filings. She brought up the police incident and claimed I had anger issues. My attorney submitted the police report showing she'd admitted to lying. That hurt her credibility, but she kept fighting. During this time, my daughter was finishing her junior year and stressing about college applications. I helped her with essays and SAT prep. My son was quieter than usual through everything. He stopped talking about his mother much. When she called to arrange visits, he would be polite but distant. He told me once he couldn't believe she lied to the police. I told him people do things they regret when they're emotional. He said that was a pretty low thing to do. I agreed, but encouraged him to maintain a relationship with her. My wife moved into a small apartment after she left our house. She kept working at Kohl's through the whole divorce process. She would tell anyone who would listen that I was divorcing her for no reason, that I was being cruel and refusing to work things out. Some of our mutual friends started avoiding me because of what she was saying. I didn't defend myself or explain anything. I just let her talk. The divorce hearing was scheduled for early spring. My attorney told me to bring all my evidence. I showed up with the folder from the private investigator. My wife showed up with her attorney looking confident. She has been telling everyone for months that I had no grounds for divorce, that I was just being paranoid and vindictive. The hearing started and the judge reviewed the initial filings. My wife's attorney argued that this was a case of unfounded allegations and paranoia, that my wife had been faithful and devoted for 15 years, that I was destroying our family over baseless suspicions. The judge asked my attorney if we had any evidence to present. My attorney said yes and submitted the private investigator's report, photos and videos, and a detailed timeline of my wife's affair. The judge started looking through everything. My wife's eyes got so big, I thought they were going to pop out of her head when she saw the photos. Her attorney looked shocked. There were photos of her and the supervisor leaving hotels together, time-stamped photos showing multiple afternoons at the same hotel, video of them kissing in his truck, photos of them at restaurants sitting close together, all dated and documented over a 9-day period 6 months earlier. The investigator's report included his testimony about following them, detailed notes about their meetings and activities, license plate numbers and locations. Everything was documented and verified. My wife started crying. Her attorney asked for a recess to speak with his client. The judge granted it. They went into a side room for about 20 minutes. When they came back, my wife looked defeated. Her attorney informed the judge that they were no longer contesting the divorce. They agreed to all terms, including custody arrangements. The judge granted me primary custody based on my wife's demonstrated dishonesty, both to me and to the court. She got every other weekend and alternating holidays. The house would be sold and proceeds split. My wife wouldn't look at me as we left the courtroom. Her attorney looked embarrassed. My attorney said we'd gotten everything we asked for. I just felt tired. The kids took the news quietly when I told them it was final. My daughter asked if Mom really did what the evidence showed. I said yes. My son asked why she kept lying about it for months. I said I didn't know. My daughter graduated from high school that May with honors. My wife came to the ceremony but sat far away from us. She didn't come to the party we threw afterward. The kids told me later she texted them saying she didn't feel welcome. I told them they should reach out to her if they wanted to. They both said they would, but weren't in a hurry. After the divorce, the kids and I built new routines. Friday nights became pizza and movie night. Sundays we would go out for breakfast, then grocery shopping together. They helped me decorate the new apartment I moved into after selling the house. My daughter picked out curtains and decorations to make it feel like home. My son put together furniture and hung pictures. It felt like we were building something new as a family. Work became a good distraction during those months. I threw myself into projects and took on more responsibilities. My supervisor noticed and recommended me for a senior technician position. I started saving again after months of legal fees and moving costs. The company offered tuition assistance, and I thought about taking certification courses. Felt good to focus on moving forward. I heard that my wife quit Kohl's shortly after the divorce finalized. She couldn't face working there anymore after everything came out. She got a job as a receptionist at a physical therapy clinic. The supervisor she was seeing got divorced around the same time. His wife had apparently found out about the court hearing. Someone who knew someone had told her what came out in court. She filed for divorce immediately and took him for everything. I heard he ended up in a studio apartment. I also heard that he and my wife tried dating for a few months after both divorces. It fell apart quick once everything was out in the open. No more sneaking around and secret meetings, just reality and consequences. My wife eventually moved to another part of the state. I stayed in Savannah near the kids. They're both in college now, doing well. They have a relationship with their mother, but it's strained. They never quite forgave her for the affair or lying to police. The fact that she lied for months during the divorce made it worse. They felt like she'd lied to their faces over and over. That's hard to come back from. I started dating someone I met through work about 2 years after the divorce. She worked in accounting and had gone through her own divorce 3 years before. We took things slow and made sure the kids were comfortable. My daughter liked her right away. My son was more cautious but warmed up over time. We've been together now for over a year, and it's been good. She understands what it's like to rebuild after betrayal. We don't rush things or make promises we can't keep. We just enjoy spending time together and see where it leads. My daughter is now finishing her sophomore year of college in a business program. My son just started his freshman year studying engineering. They're both doing better than I could have hoped. They learned resilience and how to adapt when life doesn't go as planned. Those are valuable lessons, even if they came from painful circumstances. I learned some things myself over these past few years. Learned that documenting everything matters when your word gets questioned. Learned that staying calm when someone tries to provoke you gives you the upper hand. My life looks nothing like I thought it would at 48 years old. The whole experience showed me that people reveal who they are when they're backed into a corner. My wife chose to lie to police rather than admit what she'd done. Then she chose to lie for 8 more months during the divorce. She told everyone I was paranoid and cruel. She painted herself as a victim of my unfounded accusations, all while knowing exactly what she'd done. That told me everything I needed to know about her character. I chose to document things, stay quiet, and let the truth speak for itself when it mattered. I think that says something about mine. I'm not perfect, and I've made plenty of mistakes in my life. But when everything fell apart, I handled it the only way that made sense to me. I got proof before making any moves. I protected my kids from unnecessary drama. I let her dig her own hole with lies, and I presented the truth when it counted most. In a courtroom where it actually mattered, a few people I associate with said I should have confronted her right away, that I should have given her a chance to explain or apologize. But I knew how that would go. She would minimize it or make excuses. She would try to blame me for not being attentive enough. She'd promise to change and beg for another chance, and 6 months later, she'd be right back to it. I'd seen enough friends go through that cycle: the confrontation, the tears, the promises, the reconciliation. Then finding out a year later it never really stopped. I wasn't interested in that dance. I wanted out and I wanted it done right. So I got my proof, filed my papers, and let the chips fall where they may. She made her choices and I made mine. She chose to lie repeatedly to everyone, including herself. I chose to stay silent and wait for the right moment. Looking back, I'd do it all exactly the same way. The only thing I might change is hiring the investigator sooner. But even that worked out because I had recent evidence that she couldn't dispute, not photos from years ago that she could claim were old news, fresh documentation from just months before the hearing, time-stamped proof that left no room for denial. That made all the difference in court. The judge saw exactly what she'd been doing and exactly how much she'd lied about it. He made his ruling accordingly. I walked out of that courtroom with everything I'd asked for: primary custody, fair division of assets, and my reputation intact. Meanwhile, she walked out exposed as a liar and a cheat, not just to me, but to the court and everyone who believed her stories. And I let everyone know why I filed for divorce. I didn't let her get away with it. I just waited for the right time. Some people might call that vindictive. I didn't give a damn. I call it justice. She spent months telling everyone I was crazy and paranoid. She called me unstable and accused me of abuse. She tried to turn our friends against me and paint herself as the victim, all while knowing she was guilty of exactly what I'd suspected. So, no, I don't feel bad about how it played out. I feel vindicated. I protected myself and my kids the best way I knew how, and I let the truth do the heavy lifting when the time came. That's all anyone can really ask for.